Hey guys, this is Jose Otero, and I'm here with...
Pear, hey.
Hey, and we're going to talk about the Legend of Zelda Wind Waker HD. Quick rewind theater for a Japanese eShop trailer. And hold up, before we get ahead of ourselves, let's back up. So, in case you're not in the know, the Wind Waker, here's the Japanese title screen, but it originally came out in Japan in December of 2002, came over here in March 2003. And now the HD version, there's sort of a funny way that that's getting distributed right now, right? There's a digital version.
It comes out first, yep.
Yep, November 20th, 2 weeks before the game comes out. And then on October 4th, you're going to get the retail package version, which there's also like some pre-order stuff there.
Yeah, and that's because Nintendo wants to get the bundle out early, wants to make sure that gamers have access to the game right at the bundle's release, of course, because it's a Zelda bundle. Right?
So you're looking at an eShop trailer that does the comparison thing, right? I mean, on the left, you're going to see the GameCube version. On the right, you're going to see the Wii U HD version. And just going through it, this is obviously the title screen. You've seen this before.
Yep.
So here we are, right, at Outset Island. And everyone has carried that pig before, myself included.
Yeah, there's some cool stuff you can do with the pig. And we'll stay clear of spoilers for those who haven't played the game before. There's just one scene that Nintendo chose that is kind of farther in the game, and we'll try to talk around what it is. But, you know, this is Outset Island. It's right when you start. And you can do all this cool stuff in the beginning, like mess with the pigs and try to collect them and all that. And you can see instantly the difference in the visuals. Right, like we get all this bloom lighting on the background.
Yep.
Everything looks a little bit more rounded and has shiny outlines.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, and the clouds are nicer too.
Sure. And so we move forward, and we'll see the Tower of the Gods. Now, noticeable thing right here is the sail. If you look at it, has sort of more transparency going on, and that's probably because of the new lighting. But you'll see on the left, the insignia that's on the sail is much darker. You almost can't see through it.
Yep.
Whereas the one on the right, you are definitely seeing through that thing really clearly.
Yep, and you can see also, if you look at the top of those screens, you can see the new button layout is slightly different, of course, to match the gamepad, right? But you know, obviously the gamepad has plenty of buttons and can duplicate this beautifully. So you know, you have now the quick access buttons on the upper left, where you can actually use the Wind Waker itself at the top, or the grappling hook / crane on the boat, or the cannon. You can use all the King of Red Lion's tools really quickly.
That's right.
Which was harder. Well, it was very different in the old game, but at the same time, you have access to your standard tools in the upper right.
That's right. Yeah, and it's awesome to have the easy access versus like swapping things in and out whenever you need them, right?
Yep.
So,
and then you can see in the lower left too, you no longer have this swap between compass and day-night cycle, because we're now in widescreen, right? The original game was designed for CRT televisions in 4:3. Now we have 16:9. There's just more room for the HUD, and so they fit both of those gauges in the lower left next to each other.
Excellent. Okay, so let's go now to Windfall Island, and this is a familiar archway that many folks have passed through. So this is the 4:3 version of the original. Now, really quick to point out, of course you're seeing the old UI, but you're also seeing a game that was designed for CRT televisions, and it should be pointed out that on higher resolution screens, sort of like the HD TVs we have at home, as timeless as Wind Waker is, it does show a bit of its age. You see a lot of the blurring too that you've mentioned before, Pear, right?
Yep.
in the background.
Yeah.
And now compare that to how it looks now, and like, wow.
Yeah, look how sharp. Basically, the developers tried to create depth of field by blurring the background. No matter what, unless you're in a cutscene or you use your telescope, where the background comes into focus.
In the original,
that was a cool effect, but it also got annoying because it assumed that the game knew what you were looking at. But we were looking at the horizon, seeing blurry stuff, and so now you can actually see things sharply, but because of the kind of the haze and the bloom lighting, it does look still like they're in the distance. So it's really, really cool.
Look at those soft shadows, right? The way they kind of wrap around and give everything more dimension and more texture in the original game, and you'll see it a lot more in the next shot at the Forsaken Fortress.
This is awesome.
Yeah, this shows, to me, this kind of shows a lot of what was timeless about the original Wind Waker, where it looked a lot like a cartoon, and it had really heavy shadows, and it looked really dark in some places or really bright in others. But you'll see, like, for example, is that a moblin over on the right? Yeah, sort of swaggering back and forth. And when you see the transition, I mean, wow.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Just the lighting, you can see, it looks like a background from an anime or an animated movie. I love the animations of the moblins. They were always really cool, and you can just see how good they are when you see it all in HD now, with the physics on the weapons.
Yeah, the tassel. Strings, that they have. Yeah.
Just the way he kind of like swaggers and swings the lantern around. It just looks really cool.
Look
and
at
also,
the lighting on it as he does that.
Go back,
too.
you can see how, you see the little torch off to the left side, but in HD it just looks so cool, like have this kind of little spot of red there. And, on the button layout, we're not going to go into details, but Haritsuku is the siddle action, where you kind of press onto a wall and you can hide like that, or shimmy.
No, and even the lighting in darker areas, I kind of like how this looks versus maybe in some of the bright areas I had a little bit of trouble adapting, but I think this looks fantastic. It's definitely a great way to show how this game
There were a lot of areas in the game that really relied on lighting. You have these kind of this dark Forsaken Fortress, you have stormy weather and all that. So I think it will really shine.
Oh, I can't wait to get to Dragon Roost Island and see the lava and the ash sort of in the air. Oh, that's going to look fantastic. Okay, so here is sailing towards Windfall Island, and you'll see this is, for some folks, this really shows what bloom lighting has done to the Wind Waker, right? I mean, you see the depth of field going on the left as you're approaching the island, the blur, and, we've mentioned the old HUD, but now watch again that transition. It's almost, it's really bright. It's interesting what it does to the colors, too, right?
Yeah. It looks the color scheme is a little changed, because of the bloom. You have a lot more of the kind of the lighter blues coming in, but remember there is also a day-night cycle, so it will change, and it will probably look really spectacular when the sun goes down.
Yeah,
we haven't seen much of that yet.
Definitely, like as you pointed out earlier, what it's done to the sky, right? Because when you're sailing around in this world, there's just something that looks more alive right there with that sky. And even let's look at this draw distance really quick, because we can really see out here, right? Like the draw distance of the original game, and then again there are clouds in the way, so maybe that's part of why I can't see those other islands, but I mean, look now. Like you can really see out there. I wonder if that's sort of a big change. Maybe we'll know when the game
The horizon effect is much, much nicer here. And then, one of the things that I really liked about the old game is how they visualized wind, right? This game is all about wind, being able to change the direction of the wind.
I love that.
You can see those little streaks in the sky. So, they're really going to pop much more. You can see here another streak in the old version right there.
Here's the old version. And it's funny you brought up the wind, because there it is. Like, and you see, I really like this transition as well, just to show folks, again, the original.
One thing you can clearly see is that the geometry itself is unaltered, right? You've got the two trees on the back, and when you go to the widescreen shot that's coming up here, you'll see in the upper right corner that some of the forest areas were really low polygon. You can see it's basically kind of a facade of trees. It works in this setting, though, because it has this kind of cartoon look. It doesn't look odd and out of place. Like if this was a different game, like, Ocarina of Time style, where they did a little bit more to the geometry to update it, it would be much more noticeable, but here it totally works.
Excellent, yeah. And here's talking to a villager over on Windfall Island. So we've been going back and forth between maybe the 3 first locations of the game right now.
See, go back, you can see the edge. The edges are lit up much more on the character.
Yes, on the character, yeah.
So if you go...
let's, jump back a little too far.
You can see a little bit of the edge lit up there, but then when you go to the HD version, it's much more pronounced. And you see how it's like much brighter, the colors are hotter.
Yeah, everything stands out a lot more. Yes, especially like I like that you point out that everything looks a lot hotter, and the sun is kind of like bearing down on things.
And I wrote the wiki for this guide like a decade ago. This came out in 2002 in Japan, and I started writing the guide then, and then in 2003 it came to the West. The point where most people get stuck is that tower.
Really?
Yeah, it's that whole bomb quest behind you there. It's fairly early in the game, and people get stuck there.
Okay.
There are also a couple of other things where just the UI wasn't good enough, where people got stuck. Like, when you get the sail and all those things, you didn't know where to stand to talk to the guy, and it looks like they fixed a lot of these issues just to streamline the game.
Excellent. So this next transition, this is my favorite comparison shot between the two. So this is the Tower of the Gods, which is well into the game. And you're just seeing, the king of
Red Lions.
Red Lions. Thank you. Floating along, no sail, anything. You see the wind and the depth of field happening.
Sail. Yep.
Yeah. So here we go. Wow. Like this completely made my jaw drop to the floor. Like I think this looks really good. This is an example right there of, I'm going to go back to it really quick, of just how good this game can look under the new lighting.
Yeah, I always love the patterns. You know, this almost looks like Mayan patterns a little bit in the Zelda games like that you find in the temples and the dungeons on the walls, and they really look so much better here now when you see them in HD and you can actually see them from far away. And this is a really spectacular dungeon too. That you know, there are a lot of turrets and things that light up that should look really, really cool.
Yeah, now in sepia too, sepia tint. If you read our preview a couple weeks ago. All right, and here is Link's sister Errol running by with one of the major items of the game. This is actually the opening cutscene even.
Yep, very beginning.
Yep.
You can see the grass is exactly the same.
Yep.
Geography-wise, obviously the edges are smooth. They're polygonal. These weren't sprites.
Yep.
So, you know, it looks stylized. It looks like sushi grass, you know, like plastic grass you get in sushi
That's
containers.
Right, yeah.
But it looks really good in this setting.
I can't wait to see if on some of the islands can you see like the next island from island to island. Like, I wonder if that draw distance is that good.
I think they'll keep the draw distance the same. They were really smart with how they designed this world and what you can see from where. I think that will be the same.
Okay.
Yeah. Helmet Rock King, one of the early bosses.
Oh yeah, here he comes swooping in and under the new lighting.
I always thought it was such a weird but cool design decision to have the inside of his beak be like bright, like blue-green.
Oh yeah,
and,
and his eyes are lit up, and you see sort of that transition from the shadow to bam. Yeah. Right, here he comes.
So stylized.
It's like an opera singer. Oh.
Yeah.
All right, so
this guy. There's a really cool scene where you can see all the particles from the feathers.
Oh yeah! Oh, I cannot wait. Yeah, there is a particular scene later in the game that just looks fantastic. And here is another early scene, not really a spoiler, with him swooping in.
There's a gap in that bridge.
Yeah. Is that was always there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, wait a minute.
No, it just teaches you to jump, which is of course automatic.
Automatic in Zelda. Yeah, that's right.
But yeah, this looks cool.
Yeah.
I love the first area of the game. It's just really neat to explore because you really, rather than it really forcing you to do certain things, it just lets you explore a little bit and try out all the different moves. And like, there were some games in the series that held your hand a little bit too much. This one actually does a nice job. Like you can crawl under the houses.
I also never noticed she does not look scared at all. I would just like to say.
Well, it's just a big bird. She loves big birds.
Yeah, there it is. All right, and
cover your ears for 1 second. If you haven't played the game, just cover your ears actually for 10 seconds and go yeah.
There's no comparison here. So where is this?
So there's just a scene. You can see how good it looks. This is of course the moment where one of the characters gets revealed, and you see the stained glass windows from the classic stages from the old game. Spoiler over.
Yeah.
You know, this is kind of halfway through the game. It's a pivotal moment.
Yeah. Look at what's on his back too. I love that. That's one of my favorite objects to solve puzzles in the game.
Oh yeah.
Right,
so we're not going to talk about that stuff, but you know,
no.
this is going to be really cool to see this.
Cool. All right. And this shot is super familiar. It's been in every video about Zelda Wind Waker HD since E3. So you're probably tired of seeing this shot of Link and the leaf floating down in Outset Island.
Another great wind puzzle, I think. I mean, just you know, you go to this island and you're obviously able to float with this leaf, as you can see here. But, you know, in order to get to certain places, you got to change the direction of the wind. It's just really clever, I think, to use the wind mechanic.
Oh, yeah. And the leaf is one of those, like, really cool all-purpose items that get used a lot in this game versus maybe some of the others. Cool. And this is a temple later on. And, of course, there are no comparisons here. This is just kind of showing you now. Sailing by, I'm not sure which island that is, actually. Maybe Outset. And lastly, the Gray Fairy.
Yep. Yeah, you see one of the smaller islands earlier. That's just one of the small places.
It's a big ocean out there, right? Yeah.
You know, it's a big map with a lot of small islands and structures, but also some bigger ones with dungeons in it. And of course, in the old, so there's not a lot on this island. But there are a ton of those. Then you've got the kind of the tree-based level there as well.
Yeah. Oh, I'll go back to that if you want. Yeah.
These characters are just really cool. And the lighting is bathed in green in this area. You know, you're seeing a compressed video. Once you see it in HD on your screen, I think you'll be in love with this too.
I think this is one of the few times too where you see very minimal changes in the art in some of the dark areas. Like I don't see as many of the changes as I do in the daylight.
Yeah, when you go up close though, when you see the walls, it look much more defined.
Oh yeah.
This the area here, the tree area is much more simple in the design. You know, there are not as many kind of drawings on the wall, but it'll look really cool. And then the final scene, of course, the big a big tradition in the Zelda franchises, you know, post Link to the Past, to make the great fairies somewhat creepy. They're not as scary as the ones in
Ocarina of Time has some freaky fairies. Yeah, man. They are scary.
Yeah, but
and this one, they start out as really tiny, right? Remember that?
Yep. These are weird kind of Buddhist lotus fairies now with multiple arms, and you know, even blowing the lotus flower. It's just really cool how they changed the design for
and it looks like sort of those the spring blossom petals, right?
Yep.
That fall in Japan.
Yeah, those are the
very cool. And there's a final look at Link.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us for this Rewind Theater. As we said earlier, Wind Waker HD is coming out September 20th digitally and October 4th retail. And for more Wind Waker coverage, where can they check there?
IGN, of course. We have a full wiki of the game up when it comes out, and you know, we're planning to add a cool map too to help you through your quest if you haven't played it before. If you've played it before, you probably remember everything. I know I do. I've played through this sucker multiple times.
Oh yeah.
And I'm gonna do it again. It's so cool. Such a great game.
Excellent. All right. Stay tuned, guys.